Hey guys, it's Lee. Welcome back to my channel. Another bullet journaling video. Late. Again. Honestly, I did try to get this out on time, but considering that I was looking back at my old videos from a year ago now and just like looking at the video quality and realizing, wow, my visual quality was absolute shit. And that was because I thought, okay, just getting out the video on time regardless is the best thing, even if everything isn't perfect, which, you know, is a decent philosophy to have when you're first starting a channel and you're learning. But when you're revisiting something and you realize where you went wrong, you want to fix those things so you actually feel like you're moving forward. So because of that, that is why today's setup is going to be, well, Arctic animals, wintry theme once again, but fixed. I was filming that last year, sometimes when it was too dark and just kept going, and decided to try to use my lighting as a way to fix it, but clearly that was not good enough because my ring light is very tiny. So continuing, I wanted to have the visuals be much better so it doesn't feel like wasted effort drawing and showing you guys. So I could only film when there was daylight, and considering it's still winter time in Canada, there's very few daylight hours and most of my shifts were 9:30 to 5:30, and I would get to work and it's dark, and I would come home and it's dark. So I really only film on my days off. That is why it's late. So let's just get right into it. So like I said in my intro, I wanted to redo my Arctic theme from last year. So what I ended up doing was scrolling all the way back on my bullet journal ideas Pinterest board and seeing the section where I was pinning things for my Arctic animals. And when I look back at some of those pictures, I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing this thing and this thing. And when I look back at my actual old journal, which I mean, I will be doing a flip through of last year's book soon, but that probably won't be coming out until February if I'm being completely honest. I've already got like 5 videos I gotta do this month. But anyway, going back to my tangent. So going through those old photos, I was thinking I wanted to do the ones that I didn't end up actually putting in last year's. And a lot of them, including this one actually, was the original photo I wanted to do for my cover page. But back then, I honestly thought this drawing was gonna be too hard for me, which is kind of laughable now considering that I did the Sandy Claus picture from last month. But this was super easy for me to do this time. Even though it does look like it was taking me a bit longer, it's honestly just because I ran out of daylight hours, so that's why it's kind of like going all over the place. I didn't have the luxury of doing it mostly during the day because I wasn't in quarantine for this month. So I started off with the penguin mostly because when I did part of the outline for the polar bear, I realized that it wasn't gonna fit in just the one page. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just stop and work on the penguin instead. So if I have a tip for starting to draw, if something's not working like past the third try, just move on to a different part of the drawing and come back to it. Kind of like a really hard test where you're like, okay, do all the easy questions first, and so you get the most of the test done and then the hard part last. So that's why I did that. That's basically it for this, but unfortunately with this drawing, when I tried to trace back to it, I couldn't find the original artist. It took me to, I think, a Chinese website. I didn't recognize it as Japanese, so I could be wrong. I'm not in Japan yet, so I don't really fully know some letters, but I left the link to the link it sent me to anyway if you guys are curious and want to see if you guys can figure out the artist. But yeah, if any of you guys do know the artist, please let me know in the comments and I will credit them. I'm not gonna lie though, the longer I look at this, I am very envious of that penguin's sweater. I really want something that looks like that, so maybe I'll be able to find something like that in Japan, because they already have like jackets and sweaters that have like little bear ears and bunny ears and stuff. You just can't find that kind of cute things here, so I'm hoping maybe I can find something like that in Japan. Alright, so moving on to my quote side page. Whoa, quote side page? My quote page side. At first I decided to try doing 2021 like super big like I did last year, but then when I did the quote underneath of it for please be better, it just looked too big. Like, I didn't want the quote page overtaking the cover page, so I even did this little penguin too, but then when I looked at it overall, it was just like, this looks too big. The penguin doesn't look the same as this other penguin in the polar bear suit, so I just completely erased it and just redrew it later on that night. Fixed it. Realistically, I should have waited to try to figure it out, but at the time when I erased everything, I was having a creative block and just was like, Kate, just kind of make your way through it at night and then just continue coloring it the next day. But I like the quote that Amanda used. I think hers said, "Dear 2021, please be good." And I didn't want to say the exact same thing, not only just because I didn't want to like fully copy her or anything, but at the same time, I feel kind of bad to say this and kind of surprising to say this to, I'm sure most people will be surprised to hear this. I mean, that my 2020 actually wasn't that bad compared to 2019. Like 2019 freaking sucked. Like I actually had like legit health issues and got a blood clot in my arm and everything, and I had to deal with that and heal from that for an entire year. And honestly, I'm still healing from it. I'm still on blood thinners, but my arm's healed enough where it's like, it's not really noticeable to the naked eye anymore. And so when 2020 happened with the coronavirus, the worst thing that honestly came out of that was my acne from having to wear masks all the time and getting stressed out and just not eating properly again. So flared up from that, and the fact that I got coronavirus. But that was really just 2 weeks of just having a really long, mild cold. So I really did get lucky with this year. Like I realize a lot of people had it a lot worse. So I'm very thankful that 2020 wasn't nearly as bad as 2019 for me. And I felt like this page was still pretty white, so after I finished doing the accents of the polar bear and the penguin, I decided to add some really, really pastel blue around January and the snowflakes to make it look like they're kind of sitting on snow without making like the harsh lines, and just a bunch of other pastel accent colors. But it still felt white, so I used this blue Distress ink. I'll leave the link to it below too if you'd like to add some edges to your pages. I've been doing this for the past probably like 6 months on some spreads, just to add a little bit more color. Alright, so moving on to my schedule page. This actually was the page that I started with when I was first sketching out this setup. I didn't want to make my schedule page the exact same as last year's, so I decided this time to just stick with my standard 6x6 straight lined calendar and continued the lettering to be the Romantica font that I had used for the title page. And I kept that font throughout the entirety of my setup, and at this point, recording my voiceover, I've actually already drawn out my weekly spreads for the entire month and kept the font the entirety the same, because one thing I did learn from last year's attempts at making like quote-unquote aesthetic spreads, that if you want to make it as cohesive as possible, keep your font the same the entire way through. Stop like changing them up as you go. And I did that a lot. I think I was just thinking, oh, it makes it look cool, but looking back, it just made it look like I didn't know what I was doing. So instead of adding the seals that I did last year, I wanted to go back to the mountains because I really did enjoy drawing those when I did my July setup of my Rocky Mountain theme. I'll leave a tag to that if you'd like to check that one out too. So after I drew so many mountains from that spread, I really was like, this is gonna be super fast if I just draw mountains throughout this spread too. And it still goes with the wintry kind of Arctic theme. I know Antarctica has like icebergs instead of mountains, but I was like, okay, well, there's apparently polar bears in Canada too, and Canada has Rocky Mountains, so we're gonna go with that. I kept everything black and white, and my mom actually wanted me to make these trees dark green like I did in my Rocky Mountain one, but I thought with the overall theme being black and white, it would just look better if I stuck with that, and I used my white gel pen to make it look like there was snow on the trees as well. So for this top corner, I thought it looked a little bit too white, and I didn't really want to use my really light blue Tombow that I used on the first page for the snow again. So I ripped a page from my Kaiser Crafts Whimsy Wishes line. I actually used this paper line throughout the entire setup, and including the papers that are actually behind my book right now, and just use scraps from a little booklet sheet of those papers. I'm actually doing a scrapbook haul of this line, like actually no, I'm pretty sure I bought the entire line. Yeah, the scrapbook haul of that entire line. I haven't edited the video yet, but it's gonna be the next one after this video. If you were curious about those, the links for all of these papers that I used will be in that video, because honestly there's no point in linking the description in both. So anyway, beside January, I actually originally was only going to make January the only written thing on that strip of paper, but I wrote January a little bit too far to the left, and I really was lazy at this point and didn't want to erase it and then redraw it in the center, so I thought there was enough room for this little penguin, and this little guy is actually a consistent character throughout this entire setup and the rest of my weekly spreads. I knew this penguin was super fast for me to draw, so that's why I kept him a consistent instead of the other ones. And this artist that does these penguins, there are so many cute drawings that she's done, so there was no way I was going to be able to fit all of them. And I actually did a few of them in last year's, but not nearly as much as this year, so I picked ones that I didn't draw last year for this year. Alright, and with those random snowflakes done, we flip to my to-do list page. So this time I really didn't feel like drawing little characters on my to-do list page like I tried last year. So this year I made it a lot simpler, still kept with my papers, but now because I'm getting interrupted by my dings. But now, since I had a paper line that was specifically like wintry and not just random blue pages, it looked more cohesive. So I used this snowflake paper and just kind of traced how big it needed to be cut and just ripped it down, so it kind of like went into almost a slopey look, and did the same thing for the other side to make it look like it was going back upwards. And I put it underneath this branch paper because I thought that looked really nice with layering, but then when I tried it on this opposite side, I left that pine tree cutout dry too long on my paper, and when I tried ripping it up, it was just not having it. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna wreck my page just because I did want this above it. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna leave it. And I thought it looked pretty done, but I did want to add a little bit extra detail on the top headers, so I just added some snowflakes and little stars with like, I don't even know what to describe them. They look like mini little fireworks, those like 4 little tick things. And yeah, that was basically it. So flipping to my mood tracker and habit tracker. Again, kept it simple this time. I was pretty burnt out from December, so I just wanted to make this as simple as I could. This probably might be my last month for a while doing mood trackers because I'm kind of falling off the bandwagon with them. It might have just been because I've been so stressed the past couple of months, but we'll see for next month. I might do it, I might not. We'll see how my mood actually is towards it. But this one, I just drew a crap ton of snowflakes. And if you decide to do a mood tracker like this, make sure you do sketch out the lines. Oh my gosh, binging. Make sure you do sketch out the lines first, because I actually did do that beforehand and I accidentally made 2 8s and 2 22s, I think. And so I had to erase a couple times and make it look balanced. But yeah, snowflakes are easy, but oof, man, are they tedious. I think I had to speed this up for like 2,000 just to make it not boring to watch. I just had a few little simple snowy mountains below it, and that was it. That was it. Except I made a mistake with keeping the detailed lines over top of where the snow was, and I was a little scared to go over with the white, so I just kind of left it. Alright, so habit tracker is just honestly the same as always, except this time I decided to add in a walking tracker instead of a workout tracker. Our gyms are still closed from our second wave lockdown, sadly, so I have not been able to actually work out, and it's still kind of icy on the sidewalk, so it's not really great to try to run. So I figured having a walking tracker to do some kind of physical exercise is better than nothing. So I moved on to another little penguin, but when I was drawing him, I was like, oh, you know, it's going good, and I started going into my own little head and not thinking while I was doing this, and I accidentally colored his face gray. Whoops. It's supposed to be white, so I decided to try going over it with my white gel pen and see if that would help, and it kind of did, but then when I needed to erase the outlines of the blushing parts, it made a line with the eraser, and then I had to go over it again, and I was like, oh god, this does not look as good as it would have if I didn't make that stupid mistake. But oh well, can't really do anything about it now. Alright, so moving on to our last spread, my very, very simple weekly spread. So this design I took from a Pinterest design for one of my weekly spreads for November, but I didn't take a picture of it for my Instagram before I had filled it out, and when I tried taking a picture of it and editing out what I wrote in my days, it just looked really bad, so I was like, okay, whatever, we're just gonna not post that to Instagram and redo it for another month. So I decided to do it with this one. I found this picture of the penguins just sleeping, and in the original photo he's just sleeping and not dreaming, so I added the dreaming part. And the reason I picked that specific drawing for this specific week was this was the last week I was going to be working full-time hours at my job, and was really looking forward to just spending the next few days of this week just sleeping and recharging myself, because I was so tired and burnt out and dehydrated, and my skin is getting angry at me for it. So I'm just on this mode right now to just sleep and drink as much as I can and fix my diet. Like, I was really letting myself go. Luckily I didn't gain like a lot of weight or anything, but because I was filling my body with fast food at work, because that's all I could have, because we don't have a microwave, so I couldn't bring anything from home, and it was just, it was hard. So my skin's making me pay for it. So diving out of my drama queen explanation of my life recently, I decided to keep with the pastels here and make it look very airbrushy, kind of like the photo does, because when she did the original photo, it looked like she used watercolors, and I really did not have the patience to do watercolor again. So I tried to do the Tombow, kind of how she did with watercolor, and I think it worked. But I wanted to flip back and forth with the pastel pink and the pastel blue, so you can tell that I did that with the paper distressing and the numbers and letters of the days. and just added a few more scraps from the Whimsy Wishes collection. And yeah, that was it. Very, very open spread. Okay, so here's my final flip through of my January 2021 bullet journal setup. I actually really prefer this over last year's, but at the same time, I'm thinking, would I have liked last year's more if it was on white paper instead of the cream paper? I don't know, but I'm very happy with how this turned out, and it just feels perfect. Alright, so as per usual, I will show you guys the original artwork that I used to design this year's theme. And while you guys are checking that out and it's letting it do its little slideshowy thing, hope you guys follow me on my Instagram too, and make sure you subscribe to this channel, because the next couple of days is going to be just a bunch of the scrapbook hauls that I didn't get a chance to finish in December since I had to go back to work and I did get out of quarantine. So that's going to be the focus. But from January 11th to the 17th, I will be taking a social media break, both from this channel and my Leaf Factor channel. A week's not that big of a deal, but now that my hours have gone down enough so I can treat my YouTube channels as my full-time job, I want to use that week to just get everything streamlined together for my systems to be just better so I can do this properly. I did a pretty good job last year, but some things just need some reorganization. You know the drill. So I'll be doing that that week, but after the 17th, I will be returning for full weekly videos, and if I'm up to it, maybe twice a week. We'll see. I have to do a week on this channel and a week on my other channel as well, so yes. It's gonna be a big change. So bullet journaling video shouldn't be late anymore. And I'm super done talking now, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!